They told him it would be a routine mission. Simple diagnostics, a few system patches, maybe a hardware swap. But Elias Kale knew better. In his experience, any assignment that began with "you're the only one qualified" usually ended with something broken, bleeding, or buried. The transport shuttle hummed around him, a smooth mechanical purr that belied the gravity of where he was headed, drifting through the void toward a decommissioned alien outpost on the fringes of the Perseus expanse. Kale sat alone in the cockpit, gloved fingers drumming against the control panel. He scanned the incoming telemetry one more time. No heat signatures, no internal life support, no communication. Just a heartbeat of energy pulsing from the core systems like a dying star refusing to fade. He leaned back, eyes narrowing beneath the rim of his visor. The outpost had gone dark 6 weeks ago. No distress call, no black box data. A ghost. And now they'd sent him. He hadn't asked questions. There was a large paycheck and no return protocol unless he gave the all-clear. That suited him fine. Earth was crowded with regrets, old wounds that flared in the presence of familiarity. Out here in the cold, he could breathe. As his shuttle neared the station, its full silhouette unfolded like a steel bloom, enormous and dormant, embedded into the crust of a dead moon, a structure of sharp curves and unnatural geometry, alien architecture meeting human retrofitting. The docking arm extended with a slow hiss, answering his automated handshake with an eerie sense of anticipation. The airlock responded to his code faster than expected, unlocking with an organic shudder. Inside, the outpost greeted him with silence thick enough to hear his own heartbeat. His boots clicked softly against the grated floor as he stepped into a corridor lit by flickering amber strips, their light barely touching the jagged walls. Dust floated in the stale air, disturbed by his arrival. And yet, despite the decay, the systems hummed, low, steady, and alive. Kale activated his wrist tool, running a diagnostic sweep. Power levels fluctuated, but the core was operational. Environmental controls were off, but gravity held. The air was thin but breathable. A blessing, or perhaps bait. The further he moved in, the more the silence pressing on him. Human upgrades were apparent. Mark panels, added doors, a few emergency light fixtures. But the bones of this place remained distinctly other. Symbols etched along the walls pulsed faintly when he passed, as though reacting to his presence. He slowed, touching one with his gloved hand. Warm, alive. Elias Kale, Engineering Command, he said, voice firm. No answer. He wasn't expecting one. The command hub was at the core of the station. He moved there methodically, checking subsystems along the way. Communications were scrambled beyond repair. Data storage was fragmented, overwritten with strange, repeating patterns. Not noise. A message. He reached the central atrium, a vast circular chamber that sloped gently inward. In the center was a console, massive, crystalline, not human built. It pulsed with slow light, steady like a heartbeat. Around it, the remains of equipment were scattered, tools, broken drones, and one torn pressure suit collapsed like a shed skin. He crouched beside it. No blood, no body. There had been someone here before him, someone who hadn't left. Kale stood and approached the console. As he drew closer, the light brightened, almost welcoming. His wrist tool beeped softly. Unknown interface detected. He hesitated, then reached out. The moment his hand made contact, the world tilted. Images flashed behind his eyes. Stars spiraling, walls folding, a presence watching. Not malevolent, but vast, curious. And suddenly it was gone. He staggered back, breath catching in his throat. His wrist tool showed no anomalies, but the console was now active, symbols dancing across its surface in real time, responding to him. Not mechanical, not random, interactive. He tapped his comms recorder. Kale to command. Initial diagnostics underway. Facility partially operational. No crew present. Unusual AI behavior. Possible non-human intelligence. Will continue assessment. He ended the recording. It wouldn't transmit, not out here. But protocols had to be followed. Something shifted behind him. He turned sharply. Nothing. But the air had changed, heavier, charged. A soft vibration ran through the floor beneath his feet, like something massive had taken a breath. A door he hadn't noticed before now stood open in the atrium wall. Beyond it, a corridor sloped downward into darkness, lined with faint blue lights that awakened as he approached. He hesitated. This wasn't on the schematics. Then again, much of the station wasn't. He entered. The corridor narrowed the further he went, walls curving inward, almost ribbed. The architecture had changed. Less mechanical, more biological. The lights continued to lead him downward, pulsing faster now, guiding him toward something. He emerged into a chamber unlike any he'd seen. Circular, vast, and impossibly smooth, the room's walls pulsed with soft blue bioluminescence. At its center floated a containment field, and within it, suspended in luminescent stasis, was a figure, humanoid, towering, skin the color of glacier ice, musculature impossibly defined, eyes closed in frozen sleep. Not a machine, not a human, something ancient. Cale stepped forward, heart hammering. The containment field rippled as he drew near, responding to his proximity. He stopped, watching it stabilize again. This was what the station protected. Not a weapon, not data, a being, and it had been waiting. Cale stood alone, staring up at the figure in the glow. No answers, no explanation, only the growing certainty that his mission had never been about repairs. The silence in the chamber was deafening, but Cale could feel something beneath it. A hum, not mechanical but biological, like a distant pulse threading through the walls and into his chest. The figure in the containment field remained motionless, yet the air trembled with a suggestion of awareness. He moved closer, scanning the field with his wrist tool. No human technology here. The readings were incomprehensible, constantly shifting like they were trying to hide their true values, or protect them. He circled the field slowly, eyes never leaving the being inside. Its face was striking, symmetrical in ways that unsettled more than reassured. There was no visible damage, no tubes or life support, just a suspension, perfect, serene, and unervingly intentional. This wasn't a prison. It was a display. His tool chirped again, ambient energy spike. Something within the containment pod was responding to his proximity. He reached out instinctively, but a static charge leapt to his fingers before he could touch it. The chamber reacted. Lights along the walls brightened in a ripple, and a low tone echoed from deep within the structure, like the call of a vast bell tolling in a sunken cathedral. Then its eyes opened. Cale froze. They weren't eyes in a human sense, more like cores of soft white fire, impossibly deep, their gaze landing on him like gravity. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, not out of fear, but reverence. The thing saw him, not just physically, but wholly, and worse, it recognized him. The field shimmered violently, distorting the air, and a surge of data exploded across his wrist tool. Symbols, audio fragments, and foreign code flooded the screen, looping, fracturing, rebuilding themselves. He caught pieces, words in no known language, then suddenly, unmistakably, "You were not the first." A voice rang out, not heard, but felt like it was resonating from within his skull. It was ancient, cold, vast beyond comprehension. "Are you prepared to inherit what was abandoned?" Cale staggered back, blinking hard as the field restabilized. The figure's eyes dimmed, returning to their closed state, as though it had said all it needed to. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. The chamber gave no answer. Back in the corridor, he moved quickly, pulse hammering. His breath echoed loud in his helmet, but he couldn't calm it. The being had spoken. Not a log, not a reflex. Communication. Intelligent. Intentional. He needed answers. Retracing his steps to the command atrium, he bypassed the main console and accessed the secured maintenance cache. Every outpost had one, buried deep and encrypted. He hacked it open with a combination override. The system lagged, but soon the data began pouring in. Hidden logs. Dozens. The first was dated 8 months prior, far earlier than the public mission timeline. It was a voice entry. "This is Chief Engineer Bran. Initial contact failed. Subject in stasis remains unresponsive. Energy readings inconsistent. We've lost 2 team members. Internal architecture is shifting. requesting immediate extraction. Another 2 days later. No extraction granted. Orders changed. New directive. Contains subject. Do not engage. And then silence for weeks. The final log was a video, grainy, short, a woman in a pressure suit, eyes wide, whispering as lights flicker behind her. It's waking up. It knows who we are. We weren't sent to fix this place. We were bait. The feed cut abruptly. Cale sat motionless. This wasn't a repair mission. It was a test. Or worse, a ritual. One by one, engineers had been sent here under false pretenses. None had returned, and now it was his turn. He paced the atrium, trying to piece the fragments together. The facility wasn't malfunctioning. It was evolving, responding to stimuli, human presence, specifically, and the being, whatever was part of it, or perhaps the architect. Why him? Why now? He stopped in front of the console again, pressing both palms to its surface. If you can hear me, he said, voice steady, I want the truth. The lights dimmed, then surged. A panel opened in the far wall, revealing a staircase descending deeper underground. The air shifted, warmer. Charge was sent like ozone and stone. Cale hesitated only briefly before stepping toward it. The stairs wound downward in a tight spiral. Each step lined with symbols that glowed at his passing. The deeper he went, the less like a station it felt. The walls here were smooth, seamless, more grown than built. He felt like he was moving through the throat of some great beast. At the bottom was another chamber, smaller, but more refined. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it, a sphere, perfect silver, hovering inches above the surface. As he stepped closer, the sphere projected a sudden image, himself, standing before the containment field. The stasis figure opened its eyes once more. The image zoomed into those eyes. Inside them, earth fractured, burning. Cale gasped, staggering back. The image vanished. The sphere now pulsed with a gentle rhythm. He touched it. A torrent of thought overwhelmed him. Not words, memories. Not his. Stars being born and dying. Civilizations rising, collapsing. The feeling of moving through space without a vessel. Loneliness. Power. Duty. He fell to his knees, gripping his skull. It was too much. And yet, he felt something settle in the corners of his mind. A seed of understanding. Whatever was buried here, whatever the being represented, it was not passive. It was waking, and it had plans. The sphere dimmed, and a single word formed in his thoughts. Choose. Cale looked up, breathing hard. This wasn't about repairs. It never had been. This was about what came next. Cale didn't return to the containment chamber. He couldn't. Something had shifted in him, subtle, invisible, but irrevocable. The sphere's contact had done more than show him visions. It had left a presence inside him, coiled at the edges of his consciousness like a sleeper stirring. He could feel it now, humming beneath his thoughts, an alien cadence syncing with the rhythm of his own mind. Not intrusive, not yet, but there, watching. The station reacted differently to him as he moved through it. Doors slid open before he reached them. Hallways lit softly in anticipation. Even the air felt warmer, as if the structure recognized him now. Not as an intruder, but as something closer to kin. The thought chilled him. He paused in one of the upper corridors, leaning against the wall, trying to slow his breathing. He reviewed the last hour in fragments, still unsure how to process it all. The logs, the visions, the word that echoed in his skull, like a bell tolling over a battlefield. Choose. Choose what? Between who and what? And why him? He had no answers, only instincts, and they told him to move. Whatever the station had begun, it wasn't finished, and he had a creeping sense that the being in stasis wasn't the only presence waiting for him in the depths of the outpost. The main engineering wing was sealed. According to maps on his wrist tool, it was where the original terraforming controls had been integrated into the alien systems. If there were still data cores functioning, they would be there. He bypassed the human access panel and placed his palm against the alien interface beside the door. It recognized him instantly. The door parted with a hiss of air and a groan of metal. revealing a vast room lit by the same pale, pulsing glow that now followed him everywhere. Machinery lined the walls, some human-made, corroded and broken, others smooth and organic, humming with a silent energy. Cables snaked along the floor like vines in an abandoned greenhouse, alive with light. At the center stood a dais. Upon it, a tall spire of translucent material rose into the air, cradling a slowly rotating matrix of glowing nodes. It resembled a brain, complex, fluid, yet unerringly precise in its symmetry. Cale approached, watching the matrix shift in patterns too fast to comprehend. But as he stepped into the spire's perimeter, something locked into place. The lights froze. A low hum echoed through the room. Then a voice, calm, smooth, and distinctly artificial. Cognitive imprint recognized. Elias Cale. Access level elevated. He flinched. You're not human. Correct. Interface module Theta 9. Constructed by prior civilization. Awaiting directive. Cale frowned. You've been active all this time? Dormant until recognition signal received. Signal originated from Subject Prime, now partially awakened. The containment figure. Cale's pulse quickened. What is Subject Prime? The matrix spun again, slower this time, as if parsing its own answer. Custodian of genetic archive. Guardian of chosen legacy. Interface between extinct creators and ascended inheritors. He stared at the core. And you think I'm an inheritor? You are the first to survive cognitive imprinting. That didn't feel like an honor. More like a warning. Cale stepped closer. What is this place really? Why build all this and hide it? The Matrix pulsed once. This installation was not built for humans. It was built for preservation, observation, contingency. Contingency for what? Extinction. Cale swallowed hard. The AI continued, tone flat, but impossibly ancient. Your species was never meant to find this. Contact was not scheduled for another 5 centuries. Early arrival indicates deviation, corruption, acceleration. He felt the hairs on his arms rise. Then why are you talking to me at all? Because the Prime chose you. The air grew still. The words carried more weight than a declaration. They felt like a sentence. Cale stepped away, suddenly aware of how small he was. I don't want to be chosen, he muttered. Irrelevant. The process has begun. The lights shifted again, this time darker, more focused, as if the station was drawing breath. And then the spire dimmed. The matrix spun back into chaotic motion, and the voice fell silent. Cale backed away slowly, the weight of the revelation pressing on his shoulders like gravity. He wasn't here by accident. The being in stasis had recognized something in him, something encoded, maybe seeded long ago, some silent compatibility that let him activate systems others couldn't even perceive. And now he was entangled in something colossal, ancient, but he still didn't understand the choice he was meant to make. As he turned to leave the chamber, a new sound met him, soft, distant, rhythmic. Footsteps. He froze. Not metallic or mechanical. Flesh and bone. Measured. Intentional. He moved quickly, back into the corridor, pressing against the wall as the footsteps approached from the far end. Then a figure appeared, human in shape, armored, visor down, moving with purpose. Cale stepped into view cautiously. Identify yourself. The figure stopped. Silence. Then the voice, distorted by the helmet, answered, You shouldn't be here. Cale raised his hand slowly, not as a threat. Neither should you. A tense pause. Then the figure's head tilted. They told me no one made it this far. Who told you? The figure hesitated. The ones who sent you. The ones who sent us all. Cale felt the truth land like ice in his gut. He wasn't the only operative sent as a pawn. And he wasn't the only one who'd survived longer than expected. The figure took a step forward. Whatever's waking up, it's not done choosing. Then turned and vanished down the corridor. Cale stood alone, the pulse of the station quickening around him. The choice wasn't as alone anymore, and he was running out of time to make it. Cale followed the corridor where the armored figure had vanished, but it twisted away into a dead end. Smooth walls, no seams, no doors. It was as if the person had been swallowed by the station itself. He scanned the surfaces, tapped for hollow points, anything to suggest a hidden passage. Nothing. The outpost had closed his throat behind the intruder, and Cale was left with only the echo of those parting words. It's not done choosing. He felt the pressure of that phrase pressing into his ribs, as though the station's artificial lungs had begun to breathe in rhythm with his own. He needed answers, real ones, not cryptic echoes or manipulative AI fragments. The Matrix, the stasis chamber, even the phantom figure, they all circled a single unspoken truth. Whatever this place was built for, whatever lay dormant in its depths, it was awakening and it wanted something from him. He descended, through levels no human blueprints recorded, through corridors that lit not by sensors but anticipation. The deeper Cale went, the more alien the architecture became, no longer retrofitted for human habitation, but pure and untouched, like he was peeling away layers of disguise. He entered a chamber vast enough to contain a cathedral, the air thick with metallic scent that clung to his tongue. In the center, arranged in a spiraling helix, hovered dozens of suspended orbs, each like the one he had touched before, but these were dormant. Above them loomed a towering sculpture or machine, its surface fluid and dark like obsidian in motion, reflecting the room with subtle distortions. A presence radiated from it, vast, layered, aware. Cale stepped forward. The sculpture responded. Its surface shifted to reveal a shimmer of light that coalesced into an image, a memory not his own. A planet scorched black, ringed in debris, a figure like the one in stasis kneeling amid ruins. Then a fleet, alien ships, triangular and impossibly sleek, tearing into the void. Then darkness. The image vanished, and a voice low and resonant filled the chamber, not synthetic, not from machine. You are the final variable. Cale clenched his fists. Final for what? For judgment. Another image appeared. Earth. Current. Spinning calmly in the void. Then another layer imposed over it. Red bands, blooming like fungus across continents. Swarms of heat, clusters of nuclear signatures. Cale felt his heart stutter. That's not happening. Not yet, but it will. You are accelerating. He stepped back. We've made mistakes, but we're trying to fix them. You were given cycles. You chose collapse, regression, war. Cale shook his head, his voice low. You're basing this off data. History. People change. A pause. Do they? He turned from the sculpture, pain blooming behind his eyes. His memories tangled, some not his own. He felt the weight of extinct civilizations pressing into his thoughts. He saw their final moments, their choices, their fear. And through all of it, one constant. They had been offered a choice. They had failed. Cale turned back, jaw tight. Then why let me down here? Why not finish the judgment and be done with it? Because you are not only human. The sentence struck with the force of vacuum silence. I was born on Mars. You were born in flesh, yes, but the code is older, spliced, carried from contact long, before your time. He swallowed. His thoughts spiraled. The sphere, the recognition, the interface systems opening to him like an air. It wasn't coincidence. It was lineage. The choice had never been just between yes or no, save or destroy. It was about trust. I'm not a god, he said, his voice trembling. I'm not ready for this. The sculpture darkened, then become ready. From the floor, a platform rose, carrying with a small, smooth pod, transparent, humming with inner light. Inside floated a seed. Nothing more. Organic. Fragile. This is it. Cale whispered. You wanted to carry this? To Earth. To begin again. Quietly. Carefully. It contains memory, genetics, systems. Fail again and there is no third chance. Cale approached it, chest tight. His instincts screamed that this was a burden far beyond one man. And yet, the station offered no debate, no compromise. It was giving him the end of one story and the first page of another. He lifted the pod gently, and the chamber seemed to exhale. You are not the first, the voice said again, softer now. But you are the last. Cale turned toward the exit. The corridor lit in sequence ahead of him, guiding the path back up to the station, like a vein carrying blood to a heart. Behind him, the sculpture folded in on itself, vanishing into the floor. The judgment was passed, the choice made, but the outcome was still unwritten.